So today's episode is about the illusion of control. And as usual, wrap yourselves up, as this was gonna be a really fun ride. So let's get started. Now, first of all, you need to realize that you have no control. There are some people who try to control, but they never have control. You cannot have it. That is just the ultimate truth everyone in power is always afraid of. So someone can tell you, by law, you may not do this. You may not walk a certain hiking path, which I encountered, for example. And I just say, sure, I can. I mean, what do you want to do to stop me? You need to shoot me or knock me out and carry me over, right? So in the end, they cannot really prevent you from making your own choices. And that is what many in power are actually afraid of, that you realize that. And also very important at this situation is that the only way for you to go along with them is for them to make sure that you want the same thing, that they give you the understanding that what they want is also what you want. But if not, then it always ends up in force control, and force control always ends up in violence, and we all know that, which is in the ultimate end, killing or knocking out or whatever kind of violence that is gonna be. Okay, so that's really important to know. Another example might be, for example, that you wanna grab a cup, and of course, you would say you have control over your hand grabbing the cup. So that kind of makes sense to you. But the thing is, you just have influence, to be really honest. Because if you ever went out of your comfort zone and you did, for example, squats to the absolute end of your body, that you could not stand up anymore, no matter what. And it's really funny, but I really recommend doing that because you really feel how the signals go from the brain through your body to the legs. But they just don't do anything. It's like request denied, just nothing moves. And suddenly you don't have any control. You just make suggestions. That is what you realize in those moments. And to me personally, it's a very sacred moment because in that moment you let go. You finally relax because you know that you don't have really control and you're not so tense about that anymore. So what's the problem with people trying to maintain control? The problem is that they struggle accepting that there is none. And they cling to an illusion. Because control is an illusion. And that illusion makes them suffer. So what do? Obviously they use violence trying to control. They can hold a gun to your head and tell you to do something. But in truth, if you're really free in your heart and mind, you know that it is just a suggestion. Although I would say a fairly good suggestion if someone holds a gun to you. So you better pay attention in that moment. Now, there are many ways how to resolve a situation where someone tries to exert control through violence. And the first and foremost important one, I would say, is that it's mostly about empathic connection and understanding each other. So there are many directions. It could also come from another one. I will go into that in a second. So people, sometimes all they really want is to have the feeling that you paid attention to them and their needs. Especially, I encounter that a lot with women. So once they feel that you listen for real and you were also considering going out of your way for them, that is often more than enough. The conflict disappears, even though you don't go their way. So you need to build this empathic bridge to this other person and let them know that you care and love them. But don't necessarily give in if it doesn't suit your situation well enough that you would judge it that way. And that often is already enough. I really like that one because we need to understand often also in life that just because we love someone doesn't mean that we would do anything what they want for them. You need to take care of yourself first. And sometimes that means that we understand the other person where it's coming from, but we need to let them know in an empathic way that no, we cannot do this for them. Now, another reason why someone might be holding a gun to your head is because people can't deal with the fear. And for that reason, they try to control you, to force you to something. It's very, very typical, especially for toxic players in the narcissistic or sociopathic realm. So a classic is a fear of loss. And you better don't give in these situations. Never, never, never follow something originating in fear. Just follow something originating in love. That is the option. Not even in all cases of love. But that is, if it's from something else than love, don't follow it blindly. Like, don't be silly enough. It will lead to tragedy. Because imagine you try to stay with a person just because they fear losing you. And you will suffer for that because you feel terrible, because deep down you want to leave. And that feeling always comes from very good reasons. For example, because you're not thriving, because that person acts out of fear in their daily routine too. So you see, if you let fear control you, even if it is fear from someone else, you will always suffer because it will act out in the daily routine. And when you suffer, everyone around you suffers. Your friends suffer, your work suffers, whatever. Everything suffers around you. It's just how it works. And that is really, really horrible. So don't give into fear or anything like that. If it's not from love, it's not even worth considering, really. So to recap, there is no control. And we can let other people know that in some situations. And they might come violently at us for that. So how do we resolve that? Of course, there are two reasons where it comes from, as I stated previously. One is an empathic disconnection. So the other person feels disconnect from us. And the second one is an issue deeper down, such as a fear. So one way to fix the issue is that you build an empathic connection to the other person. So you can fix that by sitting down with them and having a real talk and building a bridge in that talk. And a great guidance for that is non-violent communication. I would really recommend that. You can find a link in the video description. It is a must-have lesson for every adult, in my opinion, so watch it. But what is also very important is that if you have this gap between you and the other person and they try to control you because they don't feel connected to you, you're already most of the time screwed up. Because if you really do a good job also in everyday life, that you show every person around you that you care for them, usually that is not a problem at all. So for example, let's say you have a partner and you go into the kitchen and you prep yourself a tea or a coffee, then do that also for your partner. And also add a little bowl, for example, put some nuts in and bring that to your partner. And do whatever, give a little cheek kiss or whatever is appropriate for your relationship. But by little acts like this, people around you already know that you really care. And that already fixes most of the time these problems already. Now, what do we do with people acting out of a deeper issue? Obviously, if they're candidly interested in resolving the problem, you figure it out together with them because you love them. And you do that and you get great marriages or great friendships in the end. That is really what greatness in these two essences mean. But if they dance around the issue for a long time and everything stagnates, I recommend walking away. That is my personal recommendation. Because you have no control, they will ever change. So learn your lesson there. You have no control over others. That is, by the way, a little bit the weak spot in nonviolent communication, in my opinion, if you know it. That yes, you can resolve violence by helping people meet their needs. But if that need comes from fear or an unresolved issue, the dance will change but never go away. And that is a really dangerous thing. So in the category of people never resolving an issue fall social predators such as narcissists or sociopaths. And they are tough ones. They are really tough ones. You can never change them. Never. They will always run around in their cycle of pain and suffering and low self-esteem. And they will make your life hell. Because if you don't follow what they want because they're afraid and scared, they will make you suffer for it. So you can't control, and you can control these people, actually. But you cannot control them through love and kindness. That does not work. That is the first trap most people fall into. You can only control them by staying on top of them, dismantling their tactics the first moment, exposing their actions, sometimes even instilling fear into them. And one time I had to deal with, for example, with a manager much higher than me. And that person was between a sociopath and a narcissist. Hard to examine further without additional knowledge in my situation. And that person was very well known for that. But no other manager had the guts to take her out, to go into the dirt and take her out. And that is usually a good sign of bad, not necessarily in the sense of bad, but soft management. That no person really had the guts to stand up to that person. And that person dismantled a colleague of mine a few days ago in a meeting and really treated him so badly that he had 1 or 2 days problems. Like he just really lacked strong motivation to do anything. It was really, really crazy. And it was definitely a strong mistreatment. So that person, for example, then had a meeting with our team and me. And in that meeting, I let that person really, really much know that I put pressure on her. Like I questioned everything she said. I let her know visually by looking at her that whatever she does to step out of line and go at one of my colleagues, that she's gonna suffer greatly, that I'm ready to take her out. And that really worked well. Like we had a good meeting with her. Because of course I bumped her left and right a few times in that meeting, but was nothing too bad. But she followed then and everything went okay. And that is really sad, tragically, that these narcissists, for example, in childhood, they have just such a horrendous experience and learn to comply just with that. And that's also why they try to apply to other people when they're an adult. But the real tragedy is that they just reply to that even when they are an adult. That is really something sad that I witness and understand. And it makes me so sad because it is really not what I would like to do to someone, because I love everyone, even people I don't like to spend a minute with. I love them. And that is so hard on their own heart. That's why I don't like to stay around in these situations too much, because it's just too heavy on me. So how do people deal with the illusion of control religiously? Because religion is such a core aspect of control, for the reason that you realize that you have no control, and that scares the hell out of you. Maybe because also, like I said, it's deep down combined with an issue you have, that you want to control something very specific. So that person goes into religion, search really wise texts like the Bible, and then tries to find some paraphrases which state that they are right, and cling to it really strongly and try to find confirmation by that. And they suffer, as the Buddhists say, not because they're suffering from reality, but because their understanding of life. Because they believe life is so terrible, and if they just hold on tight enough to something, they will be saved. And in this case, it's very specific religion. But there is no saving. That is the whole purpose of religion. Religion, I would say, or the purpose of religion is to let go. It's not to cling to something, it's to let go. To let go, to go with faith. The faith that there is no control. The faith that there is a divine, and that you go with it, and that you flow with it. So letting go is actually embracing the release of the illusion of control. That you know that you cannot control is true faith. And in that you will find true religion. But if you try to cling to something really, really tight because of the illusion of control, you definitely screwed up. So be really careful if people hold on very tightly to religion and can't make jokes about it, for example, because that comes from something else. That doesn't not come from the divine experience, as I would say. So what can I do myself? Now, in self-cultivation, what we do is exactly the opposite. We let go of illusions. That is what we do. So we work them out, which can be really tough, because words are cheap and actions are everything, as I said before. Actions are really hard. For example, if someone is nervous, but you say, don't be nervous. Has it ever really helped? Has that person ever told to anyone then, oh, hey, thanks that you reminded me. I totally forgot not to be nervous. It just doesn't work that way, right? And the reason is that I told you in a previous lesson, you're a pattern. You're like a whirlwind moving in a certain way. And change doesn't come by easy. You need to work the change out into that pattern so that pattern transforms into a different pattern. And that is why actions are everything and words are so cheap. So if you read a book and you believe, now I changed, now my life is better. No, like the actions following afterwards are what makes the difference. What makes the difference is what you will do every day. So if you believe you changed, that might be also just your ego tricking you. That also exists. So work is really, really important. Work is the uttermost important thing when it comes to self-cultivation. And it's entirely fine, that we all start with the illusion of control. We all are afraid the moment we were born to let go of some kind of control. Like it's a frightening experience living life, to be honest. But it's not okay to carry that burden around for your whole life. And everyone can learn to let go that illusion of control. Everyone can do that. And I know because I did. And I'm definitely not a very necessarily smart person or gifted in some special way. You just need to sit down and grind through it step by step by step. And you can practice that, as I said previously, through little deeds in daily life. And you need to find that a bit for yourself, because it's really hard to generalize what kind of fear you have in terms of letting go. One thing you can do, for example, is to imagine a situation where you are faced with your fear of control, where some person you really, really love dies, for example, and that you get more comfortable with that situation. But there are also other things you can do more practically. Like, for example, what I like to do is go bathing when there are really tough waves here, where you can even die, to be honest. And I really love it, because sometimes a wave grabs you and it just hurls you around and you lose all control. And it just relaxes me so much. I need to, every time I get up after that, I need to laugh, like really laugh out loud. Like, it's just so much fun knowing that I couldn't have done anything in that situation. And another good thing is also sports. Like I said, sometimes in my younger years especially, I tried to and wanted to push things so much to the limit that in the end you can't do anything anymore. It's just so freeing knowing that. I don't know why. It just works that way. And there are also many situations, Buddhist practices, some Buddhist practices work that way, that a guru, for example, that's not Buddhist, but okay, but a guru, for example, might steer you into such a annoying situation where you get so frustrated and angry and you feel like you cannot go forward, but maybe then also you can't go back. Like, he steers you in this impossible situation where this unstoppable force meets the immovable object, in which you get so tired of yourself and your illusion of control and trying to cling to it that you just finally relax. And that is how you get done with it, step by step by step. And what's really nice is in these situations, then also the divine energy comes more to you, this divine experience of love and care and faith that you don't need to exercise control explicitly. And really strangely, what happens is, as I also outlined a bit in a previous lesson about, for example, loneliness, the moment where you let go, you have it. And that is something entirely illogical. No one will ever be able to explain, I guess, scientifically. But the moment you try not to grab control, you have it. You have influence over people because they know that you care about them, that you love them, and that you don't want to exert your force control over them. And that means you want the best for them, and that's why they listen to you then. And that is such a beautiful, illogical thing in terms of an inverse way, how nature works. It's like if you try to grab water, it just runs out of your hand. But if you use a palm, fill like a bowl, and you go into the water and you don't try to grab it, but just to hold it, and you will have it. And that is just how it works. So practice to let go of the illusion of control. I can assure you I never regretted it for a single minute ever since I got through that. So I wish you all the best and see you next time.